We're often asked, how can I learn about the heritage and the culture of the Native American children in my care? Today, we're going to get a bit of a history lesson, an abbreviated Native American 101 with an expert from the Billings Clinic, Josiah Huggs.
Greetings. My name is Josiah Huggs. I'm a member of the Abzalogad Nation. Grew up in the Arrow Creek district of the Crow Reservation, Pryor, Montana. And I'm very honored to be here. And, I guess all the fields that I've worked in so far have kind of prepared me for the role that I played, the role that I fulfill here now at Billings Clinic. I was a Native American liaison. Now I'm the organizational development consultant. Still do the same work. There's like 4,700 employees here at Billings Clinic, and trying to get in front of all of them with my presentations that stem from Native American 101, which is a basic overview of tribes that have historical homelands here in Montana and Wyoming, where the reservations are, what tribes were placed on those reservations, and then some social cultural norms that they'll come across. We look at historical trauma and stemming to like the Religious Crimes Code Act, the Dawes Act, the Relocation Act, and then the Religious Freedoms Act that came into play in August of 1978. So my presentations do a lot of like I'm a history teacher type of deal, basically. And I think teaching's in my blood because my mom taught on the reservation for like 40 years. So it's just something that naturally happened and, that I love to do.
I love it. Teaching's in your blood. I know because I've gotten a chance to talk to you before we've gone on air here, and I've learned a lot from you. I'm excited for our families. We'll definitely be recording more after this one for sure. One question I have is, how do you like to describe yourself, whether it be Native American, whether it be your specific tribe?
hmm
And is that the same across the board or does that vary person by person? Tell us more.
Yeah, I think with, a lot of the older generation, like baby boomers and older, they refer to themselves as Indian, and they take a lot of pride in, referring to themselves as Indian, where the younger generations will use the term Native American and Native, especially in this area, in the United States, or even just like in this kind of region, Montana. The further north you go, they refer to themselves as indigenous, First Peoples, and that. But if you tried to, if you called me indigenous, I'd probably laugh because you never hear me say, I'm Josiah Huggs, I'm indigenous. That's not how we do things. So it seems kind of funny, hokey. But to the Native Americans that do use that, they take pride in that. I'm indigenous. So it varies, but I would say, here in our region, Montana, it's kind of universal that we, refer to ourselves as native, is a more common term. So that's, I would say, that's how I identify. I would say I'm native, and meaning, I'm from a tribe, like the Abzalogad tribe. And the Abzalogad is what we call ourselves, and then what we're federally recognized as is the Crow tribe. So there's kind of with, Gen X, millennials, and younger, that those generations are, the movement is to use the actual word of what we call ourselves as Abzaloga. And you'll find that with all the other tribes as well, that there's a difference from what they're federally recognized as and then what they call themselves.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's actually fairly complex and a bit individualized, and maybe our best bet is really just to ask the person sitting across from us, what do they prefer? Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I think that would be best. Like how do you want us to refer to you? Is it indigenous? Is it Native American? Is it Indian?
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. So our families, they really want to preserve this heritage for the kiddos that are in their care, but they may not share that heritage with them.
Mhm.
We hear all the time, how do I find cultural resources in my area? And again, we serve the whole state. So, what kind of ideas do you have for them?
I think a good place to start, I know especially is the urban clinics. There's an urban clinic in Billings. There's an urban clinic in Missoula, Helena, and Great Falls. And there you'll find that they have grants where they run like tobacco cessation, suicide prevention, addiction prevention, and they have activities. And so checking their websites or even going in and be like, I have this foster kid, he's Native American. We're really interested in your guys' events. Where can I find out? Or giving them a call because I see it all the time. I used to work for Billings Urban Indian Health and Wellness Center, and I worked under the suicide prevention grant, and like we had events every week where we tried to incorporate culture and some preventative work, and then trying to bring the community out with a meal, and then we do the programming as the meal was happening, and then we had fun. We play games and do all types of things, and I know we had an open correspondence with these other urban clinics in the different cities here in Montana. And, we oftentimes we kind of collaborate or steal their ideas and they'd steal our ideas. So I know that there's weekly events, monthly events where culture is the focus. So that would be a good place to start.
Yeah. And besides those urban clinics, is there other places where they can learn about the customs and the traditions of a particular tribe? Any other recommendations that you have or ways that they could research about their child's tribe?
I would say, yeah, every single tribe here in Montana on the reservations, there is a tribal college. And on the tribal college, there's a lot of resources, history of the tribe. And a lot of these tribes offer like a language class as well. And due to the pandemic, everything's virtual, like what we're doing here now. And some of their language classes are offered online, and
Wow,
sometimes they're free. So
that's awesome.
the tribal college is like a great place to start, if they're not living in a more urban setting like Billings, Missoula, Great Falls, Helena, or Billings. Yeah, so like the tribal college on our reservation is Little Bighorn, Native Northern Cheyenne is Dull Knife, um, and every reservation has a tribal college.
Okay, we've had a lot of people ask us, how do they humbly seek information? But they're not sure how to ask it without offending because they know that they don't know something. Is there a good way to go about that or a way that's better received?
Yeah, I think the more you can be like an open book, meaning, like if I don't know, like if I go to a ceremony and I'm not part of that community, I'm not part of that tribe, I would simply, find somebody that kind of, that's kind of running things or that is a part of it. And then, given the opportune time, go up to them and be like, hey, my name's Josiah Huggs. I'm from a different tribe. I really like what you guys are doing here, what's going on, but I have no clue what it is that is happening. Because my foster child is part of your guys' tribe, and we're here to observe and learn. And, so can you help us better understand what is happening here? And then oftentimes, natives are more than willing to share. And, if you kind of, like I said, an open book and take that healthy risk to be vulnerable in that circumstance, then I would say, the person you're asking would probably be like, oh yeah, this is what's happening, or go talk to so and so. They know what's happening. They got a better understanding of it. They can tell you, and probably oftentimes they will take you to them.
That is wonderful. So, again, if the parent is attending a cultural event and they don't have any of that heritage themselves, I also just heard you say, "Hey, don't push yourself to the outside of the group. lean in and ask the people who are in charge, and ask humbly, ask respectfully,
Mhm.
and be curious. I heard a lot of curiosity in there. It sounds like that's the best skill that they can have, right?
Yeah, and like really just kind of explaining or putting it out there. You know, I got this foster child. He's part of your guys' tribe, and we want a better understanding of your guys' culture and your this event or this cultural event or this ceremony that's happening. Um, so that we can help educate and support, their growth in their culture. And really, like I said, just really laying it out there.
Are there other things, other events, things like that that they really should know? Hey, this is just a everybody knows about this within that culture.
Humor.
Ah,
Humor is widely used, sometimes even to our detriment. But if a native person is teasing you, that often means that they like you.
good to
So if
know.
they're not teasing you, they're probably in a like filling you out.
Good to
They're like
know.
watching you. Is this person legit, genuine? How is this person really? How are they? Are they operating in this facade? Are they being genuine right now? So humor is a good cue, if I start teasing you about the way you walk or the way you dress or the way you said something, um, then that's a good sign.
Yay, I look forward to the day when you tease me about it. I like it. I like that. It's something we talk about with our foster parents all the time, actually, that is this idea of playful engagement. And that
Mhm,
really does disarm fear
mhm.
on both sides of the table. So I love that you brought that up. Okay. So our families, some of the children that come into their care have different religious beliefs, and so they're curious. They've asked, how do we navigate those differing religious beliefs? And I know I've heard some people say, it's better if you just kind of address it to creator or higher power or different things. Do you have any tips or tricks for our families on navigating different religious beliefs?
So our word, Ijik that was the original word that we use for God, and we were saying God, but because it translates into English as first creator, um, then the non-natives seen that as, oh, they're praying to some separate entity. But we were praying to the one God that all native tribes believe in, that there's only one God. And then, of course, then there's all these helpers, the spiritual helpers, is the most like universal belief. So to say, so if there's a child with they're believing more in a traditional way, then, coming at it as, using that Old Testament, Yahuwah, Yahweh, that was the one true God, and that, hey, your ancestors prayed to this God too. And so you can use Creator God, and then, Creator God sent his son, and then telling them that how you can kind of bridge that gap. I would say is the best kind of way to introduce that both the Hebrews and the Native Americans were praying to the same God.
That is so helpful, finding that common ground, and where do we go from there? Thank you for that. What if in the process of caring for these kiddos, if we're honest and we realize, gosh, I've got some prejudices,
So,
I've got some discomfort, I've got some biases, I'm starting to realize, gosh, I'm a little uncomfortable with this other culture. How would you want them to respond to that or reflect on that? What would you recommend if people take an honest look and they realize they've got that discomfort? What would you recommend they do?
I think recognizing it is a huge step, because that brings it into your consciousness. Because prior to that, it was probably subconscious and they didn't realize they were prejudiced or they were discarding a certain group of individuals because of that unconscious belief, you know. So being aware of it, that's huge. And then really looking at that, whatever that bias is like, why do I hold this to be true? Why am I holding this against these individuals? And then really kind of diving into that. So I should, you know, just sharing a little piece of my story. There was a time, you know, where I didn't care for certain individuals just because of the color of their skin. So as I began to work on myself, it was really things that I held against myself that I didn't care for, and you know things that you know I just really didn't care for myself as a person. You know, I didn't love myself as much as I said I loved myself. So when I began that work of really dealing and feeling with my own emotions, and then really working on myself and really working on trying to love myself, that I was then able to then look out and just see people, you know, and just have that love for people because I love myself. Um, and so all those prejudice, all those biases I held in the past, like went away. You know, once I was able to kind of really look at myself and work on myself and um, really come to a place where, you know, I'm in a better place of, you know, appreciating myself, loving myself. And then in turn, you know, I've been able to appreciate and love on other people.
Wow, that that was beautiful. Is there anything else I didn't ask you that I really should ask you that you cover in your 101 class that you kind of, if I were to say, Josiah, is there something you wish every foster parent knew that is caring for a kiddo that's from a tribe that they just don't know? They have no clue about it. Is there one thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so especially if the kid is coming from like a home that is where the social cultural norms of that tribe are adhered to. So early on when I was growing up, I was taught that to make eye contact and maintain eye contact was to be disrespectful, forward, and just being spiteful, especially as a youth. Looking at my superiors, you know, mother, father, grandmother, aunt, uncle in the eyes and maintaining that eye contact would probably get me spanked, you know, or even hit. So, and that all falls back onto showing respect. So, there's a word like with the crow, a body law. So it means to give advice. So whenever someone is giving you this advice, the only proper response is to look down. And even now, you know, at my age, 41, almost 42, if my 70-year-old mom walked in and was started in on me, my only proper response to show her the ultimate respect is to look down and not say a word and let her say what she needs to say. And you know, I can't explain myself. I can't have any rebuttals. Nothing. Just take it to show the ultimate respect. So if they're coming from a home, you know, that adheres to these teachings, then you know it's going to take them a while to switch over to, you know, I say mainstream society where we make eye contact and maintain eye contact, you know, and also along those lines as well, when of course, you know, we're speaking English and English is spoken on all the reservations. And even like in my hometown, on my home reservation, English is kind of the majority language that's spoken throughout the day. But it's almost like a different dialect of English, where some of the traditional words are used in the conversation. And depending on if you're speaking with an elder or someone that is fluent, they'll switch back and forth throughout the conversation between the languages. So, you know, even when I leave Bellings, drive 30 miles to my mom's house onto the reservation, there's like a different dialect of English that's being used. So when I come here, I have to kind of switch. When I come back to Bellings to work, I have to kind of switch a dial and, you know, enunciate my words. And sometimes I'm searching for the right words. I know the answer, but I'm searching for the right words to use. That's different from, how I would talk back home.
That all makes perfect sense. I work with a Southern girl, and sometimes she flips into her Southern accent. Same idea, I would think. And I'm Italian, so I like us talking with our hands. I like you're going to teach me some new motions there. Okay, I think we're going to land this plane with a question. You kind of touched on it in the last thing you said. So I'm going to ask you to drill deeper down on it because I've heard this many times, this idea of did they grow up in a traditional family or a non-traditional family? And I think that's a really common thing that I hear. Can you kind of tell me a little bit of the difference between the two and what we might see and what that might mean to the families who serve these kids?
Yeah, definitely. So when they say a traditional family, they mean they're strictly the traditional beliefs, sweat lodge, peyote meetings, sun dances during the summer. They're smudging probably at least once a week. And then these social cultural norms, like the no maintaining eye contact is happening. And a lot of times, they might be living with their grandparents or grandparents are living in the same home. Um, and it's really close knit, tight family. So just kind of using myself as an example, when I say family, I'm talking about 60 people,
It's
you
a big
know?
number.
Yeah, so that's like my dad, my uncle, and my aunt, all their kids and grandkids. These are the people that, I grew up with. When I say family, I'm referring to that. So that's a huge piece, and that's kind of more of like a cultural, traditional family. So non-traditional would, they might be raised in church. Another aspect of that non-traditional family too is the urban native. Um, Urban natives, you know, say their parents raised them in Billings, never took them back to the reservation, never exposed them to any culture. So what you'll find with them is they won't know anything, and they'll just be like any other kid off the street where they don't have any culture, they don't know anything about their heritage or anything. So they're gonna be, more kind of mainstream. That's gonna be their focus. They're gonna be focused more on what mainstream kids are.
I love it. Boy, you have been a gift to us today, Josiah. You've just enlightened me. I've learned so much, and I know our families will too. I just want to thank you for what you do. We are really grateful.
Right on. Thank you for having me.